purchasing power is being preserved. So I think that holding gold and silver is an excellent idea, but not as an investment, but as insurance to preserve the purchasing power of your savings.
Okay, Neil Shackle in Chaska is asking, isn't it true that the American government does not own gold, but rather the owners of the Federal Reserve own the gold? So, like, I'm assuming he's speaking about the private bankers, that the gold was transferred to their ownership.
Well, Gary, I believe that's true, although the information that the government puts out is very conflicting at times and very vague. It's hard to nail it down. I don't think that the government holds much of a stockpile of gold at all. Obviously, they do hold some. At least up until very recently, they were producing gold coins, so they had to have a little stockpile, maybe a couple 100 pounds of it or something. But now they've even stopped doing that. So I don't think the government holds any meaningful supply of gold anywhere, certainly not in Fort Knox or any place else. Yes, I believe that most of the gold that is held, in the banking system at least, is held in the vaults of the members of the Federal Reserve cartel.
So we're not sure what is in Fort Knox.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
We're not sure how much gold is in Fort Knox. I mean, could those vaults be empty, or could the wealth have been transferred via paper to another owner?
Yeah, well, both of those are possible. Yeah, the vault could be full, but it may not belong to the government. But the fact that they won't let anybody in to examine those vaults is a kind of a clue, I think. Why not let the press in? Why not let representatives of significant organizations in to verify that the gold is there? But they won't do that, so that, to me, is a clue that it's not there.
I've got a question here from Brad in Tampa, Florida. Brad is asking, and I've heard this raised before, perhaps you could shed some light. Is there a provision of the Federal Reserve Act that allows Congress to buy back the shares in the Federal Reserve Corporation at a predetermined price?
I have heard that. I cannot recall a provision that allows that specifically, but I'm sure that it's possible for the Congress, when you say to buy back, that's the phrase. That throws me. I don't think Congress ever put any money into it, so how would they buy it back? But I think what this is all referring to is that it's possible for Congress to abolish the Fed, and then if the Fed were terminated for any reason, all of the banks that are part of this structure have put in a small amount of money, each of them, as their share of the stock which they've purchased. It's just a modicum amount. It's just to go through the motions of showing some kind of a cash investment in the system. And I think that would be returned to the banks at the same amount that was stated when they purchased it. So I think that's what that's referring to. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans. Whether Congress would buy it back, you shouldn't have to buy it back. Congress shouldn't have anything to do with it. Congress shouldn't have it. Congress doesn't want it. Why would they buy it? You know, I think it's a question that's based on some misunderstanding of the nature of the Fed.
Let's see. We've got Jeff in Houston asking, Mr. Griffin, how did you confirm the information in your book, The Creature from Jekyll Island?
That broke up just a second there, Gary. How do I confirm the information is what the question was?
How did you confirm and verify the facts in your book, The Creature from Jekyll Island?
Okay, well, it's the facts in the book are referenced, all of the important ones that anyone might have any problem believing, and there are a lot of those in there because it's so off the wall compared to what they teach in school. All of those facts are referenced to my sources, and you'll find that there are many footnotes, thousands of them, I suppose. And they go to original documents. I don't reference other people who are simply expressing an editorial view. I go to the original documents themselves, to the books and papers of the people participating in the events which I'm describing. And in many cases, they boast of what they're doing. So all I can say is if anybody wants to follow the research trail that I have, and I hope there are many people like that they will take those footnotes seriously. It's now much easier to run those references down on the Internet than it was back in the 1990s when I was writing the book. In those days, you had to go to the library in many cases and go through microfilm and check out books and have interbranch loans from one branch to another because a lot of those books were out of print and there weren't many copies of them around. So anyway, to make this short, it's just go to the Internet and check some of those references out, and you can see that everything in there is 100% accurate.
Ryan in Denver asks, do you believe hyperinflation will come to America? And if so, when might this happen? If not, why?
Well, I totally believe that hyperinflation is coming to America because hyperinflation of the money supply is inevitable. I mean, these guys in Congress are authorizing the Federal Reserve System, and they don't need to authorize it, by the way, but they're going through the motions. The Federal Reserve System is creating money like they're insane. It used to be when they created $1 million, everybody gasped. And then they started creating billions of dollars, and everybody gasped. Now they're creating trillions of dollars at the stroke of a pen. I don't know how you can breathe with those numbers. And so flooding...
What comes after trillion? You know?
I don't know. I have heard the word. I've forgotten what it was. But, when you reach trillions, you're talking about wipeout. The economy cannot survive that kind of stress. So... it hasn't hit yet. They're voting the money. They're authorizing the money. Some of it's already getting into the system, but most of it is still in the pipeline. And it takes a little while for that to get into the system. It'll go first into the economy through the pockets of the financial institutions and the large corporations getting these bailouts. And then they'll spend it, and it'll hit into the economy, and the first thing you know, the price of milk will go up, the price of bread will go up, gasoline will go back up again. And, yes, the short answer to the questions, I think that hyperinflation in America is inevitable. As to when, I don't know, because it's hard to say how long it's going to take these guys to spend that money back into the economy. And, of course, at the same time...
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're talking about injecting trillions of dollars into the system. That's what they're doing, and because of fractional reserve banking, doesn't that just grow even more exponentially after it hits the market again and gets reloaned out?
Well, yes, it can. It definitely can, Gary. And a trillion here can be 9 trillion by the time the bank loans it again. And however, we have to remember that a lot of that money, especially in the banking system, is replacing the same amount of money that just went out of existence because the loans were bad. When a bank has to write a loan off of its books, that money literally goes out of existence. That's the other side of the coin. It's easy for them to create money out of nothing, and then when they write the loan off, the money goes back into nothing. So there was a lot of money disappearing from the economy, and a lot of this bailout money that they're putting into the hands of the banks is designed primarily to replace the amount of money that's been going out of existence. So the actual growth in the money supply may not be as large as you would think, because the tendency is to say, well, this is all fresh money they're creating, but it's not. They're replacing a lot of old money. But nevertheless, the rate at which they're doing that is just tremendous, and my opinion is that there's no way to avoid hyperinflation because these guys aren't done yet. They're just getting revved up.
Yeah, they're just waking up in the morning. Now, let me ask you this. We've got a question here about transitioning back to a gold and silver standard. This comes from Bruce in Massapequa. And in my opinion, I think that transitioning back, if we transitioned out of a gold standard, phased it out, we could phase it back in. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. And, Yeah, I've made that clear in my book and everywhere I speak on the topic. It's the only salvation. If we want to have a sound economy and a sound monetary system, we've got to base it on gold.